Hello everyone. Our next topic is soil compaction. So the compaction of the soil means to increase its density and to decrease the void ratio, to decrease the air voids in the soil and the void ratio also. So it can be defined as the densification of soil by application of the mechanical energy, and it is measured in terms of dry unit weight, that is gamma T. So why do we need compaction? If we are construction any structure that is made up of soil, or in another other cases some structure which is coming on the soil, so what happens, we have to increase the shear strength of the soil so that it can take more loads, and to increase the shear strength it is necessary to decrease the air voids. So why do we do it? First, to increase shear strength and decrease air voids. So if air voids are less, then shear strength will be more. And the second reason is, if air voids are left, then water may enter, and if water is entering, then shear strength will decrease. Or entering water can lead to the swelling or shrinkage also. If the water is leaving or entering, it will leave us to the problem with of volume change. So that's why we need to do the compaction of the soil. And so let's see the difference between the compaction and consolidation. Both are different phenomena. Consolidation we'll study later, but let's see some basic difference. So the compaction is an instantaneous phenomena. It means use it we do it by applying some mechanical energy. That means we do it by using rollers or compactors. So it is an instantaneous phenomena, and consolidation is a time taking phenomena, time taking process. In compaction the soil is unsaturated, while in consolidation soil is always to completely saturated. And so the compaction is achieved by reduction in volume of air voids, and in this case pore water expulsion. So the pore water goes out with time, takes place, and various methods are applied for this. Field methods and lab methods, all different methods are applied, and in this case it takes place under the static loading and with time. So if we make the phase diagram between these two, so the for compaction, so in compaction it is a three-phase soil. Some air voids are there, then water and solids. And for consolidation it is a two-phase soil, that is solids and water. So when we apply compaction, then the volume of these air voids will decrease. So the new phase diagram will be something like this, and the volume of air voids will be decreased. And in this case the pore water moves out of the soil, so that way the volume decreases. So this is the difference between the two. Some lab tests are there. Some it is devised by the R. Proctor. So he found out a relation between the dry density of the soil and the moisture content at which the compaction is applied. So it comes something like this. So on x-axis it is moisture content, and on the y-axis it is gamma density, dry density. So as the moisture content increases for a same compactive effort, so as the moisture content increases, the dry density also increases, but this is true up to a certain point, and after that the dry density starts decreasing as the moisture content increases. So let's see what happens. So first let's see the Proctor test. So first test is standard Proctor test. So in this case it is a laboratory test, and it is a dynamic impact kind of test. So a mold is filled with soil, and it is compacted by applying the impact force using a hammer, and with that force the soil is compacted. So the weight of hammer in this case is 2.495 kgs, and height of fall is equal to 304.8 mm, and volume of mold is 944 cubic centimeter. And so the it is compacted in three layers, and giving 25 blows to each layer. So with that compaction, the compactive effort can be found out. So we can write compactive effort per unit volume. So the unit for this will be joule per meter cube, and so it can be given as 25 blows in three layers, and the weight of the hammer, height of fall, and into 9.81 to convert the mass into force, weight divided by the volume of the mold. This gives the in joule per meter cube, and it comes out to be 594.29 kilojoule per meter cube. Similarly, for higher compactive effort, another test is there, that is modified Proctor test. So for that, weight of hammer is equal to 4.54 kgs, and height of fall is 457.2 mm, and volume of mold is still 944 cc. So it is compacted in 5 layers and 25 blows to each layer. So similarly, for that compactive effort can be found out for modified Proctor test also, and it comes out to be 2696.31 kilojoule per meter cube. So in India, some variations are used for some variation of these tests are used, so that corresponding to the standard Proctor test, light compaction test is used in India. So like for this, weight of hammer is equal to 2.6 kgs and height of fall is equal to 310 mm. Volume of mold is 1000 cc, and similarly it is compacted in 3 layers and 25 blows to each layer. And corresponding to modified Proctor test, in India it is used as heavy compaction test. So for that, weight of hammer is equal to 4.9 kgs and height of fall is equal to 450 mm and volume is equal to 1000 cc, and it is compacted in 5 layers and 25 blows. So similarly, as we plotted, if this is the plot for standard Proctor test, so when more compactive effort is applied, then this shifts like here. So for heavy compaction test or modified Proctor test, we get the uh, more value of the dry unit weight than the standard Proctor test. So we'll see the factors affecting compaction now. So these are the factors that affect compaction, that is water content, compactive effort, type of soil, and method of compaction. So water content, to understand that, as we saw in the clay particle relationship, if it is a clay particle, then there will be some absorbed water around this, and so if two particles are interacting, there is some absorbed water. So when the moisture content is low, at low moisture content, these two particles, clay particles, in between them wander wall attraction force is there, and because of this adsorbed layer, the repulsion will be there. So at low moisture content, this adsorbed layer is not fully developed. Not fully developed. So what happens? So the net force between the particles is attractive. So if attractive force is there, then flocculated structure forms, and if structure is flocculated, it means more voids are there, and so gamma d is low. And as now we increase the water content, increasing the water content, this electrical double layer forms properly, and because of that, net force between these two particles become repulsive, and if repulsive force is there, then we know the structure that forms is dispersive. So dispersed, should I say, it is a dispersed structure. So when the structure is dispersed, in that case the particles arrange in a more aligned manner, so the void ratio decreases in that case, and so the value of dry density increases. What happens? So in the graph, if we want to see in the water content and gamma d plot, So what happens, this plot is something like this. So at this low moisture content, the gamma D value is very low. Now when we increase the moisture content, so gamma D will keep on increasing until it reaches a point of maximum dry density, and this moisture content is called as optimum moisture content. So at that point we reach to the maximum dry density. But what happens after reaching the maximum dry density? By using this theory, if we understand it, so when the double layer is fully developed, so we get the proper dispersed structure and the particles have aligned into the compacted way in which they can apply align. So after that, if we further increase water content, so what happens then, the place which is occupied by soil particles at this moment, but now if more water is coming, then the water particles will take place of these soil particles, and the unit weight of water is obviously less than the unit weight of soil particles. So if the place which is occupied by soil particles, if it is occupied by water particles, then the value of gamma d decreases, and so we get this kind of curve. So gamma d, as we know, it is given as g gamma w upon 1 plus e, and if we want to we can write this formula as 1 plus wg upon s, because s equal to wg. So if you want to find out the zero air void line, it means if we compact it to a up to a point, so there are no air voids left. So it was something like this first, so solid water, and so this part is removed. So if we want to reach that point, so what happens, we can say the degree of saturation becomes 1. So zero air void line can be obtained by using this formula at different water contents. So we put the value of different water contents and we can plot the zero air void line. So the zero air void line, when it is plotted, it comes parallel to this. So it means that whatever compaction effort we apply, we cannot reach this zero air void line. Zero air void line or 100% saturation line. But if we want to plot the, let's say, the zero air voids and 100% saturation is the same line. But if we want to plot the 10% air voids and 90% saturation, then it will not be the same line, because of the way that degree of saturation and air voids are defined. So the percentage air voids are defined as volume of air voids divided by the total volume, whereas the degree of saturation is defined as the volume of voids filled with water divided by the volume of voids. So this formula is applicable just for the zero air voids line or 100% saturation line, and from this formula we can get for different value of saturation, degree of saturation. But if you want to find out the line for different percentage air voids, then for that different formula is there, and that formula is gamma d is equal to 1 minus Na g gamma w upon 1 plus wg. So obviously it gives the different line for 10% air voids and 90% saturation. So this is the first factor. After that, Next factor is compactive effort. So when for a given compaction type, when higher compactive effort is used, then the dry unit weight also increases. So as we saw for standard Proctor test, if the plot is like this, then for the modified Proctor test, it is something like this. So the unit weight increases if we increase the uh, compactive effort. But what happens uh, as we increase the water content, then these two lines become closer and closer, and so after the optimum moisture content, that difference is not very much. So there is not much impact of increasing the compact effort. Just we can uh, it I can say that the dry unit weight increases on the dry side of optimum. So in this side, if we are increasing the compactive effort and we are on the dry side of optimum, it means left of optimum moisture content, then dry unit weight will increase. But if we are on the wet side of optimum, then the increase is not significant. And if we plot the zero air voids line, so the zero air voids line come something parallel to the and it comes like this. And if we join the lines joining optimum moisture content, that is called the line of optimums. So the this is zero air void line, and this is line of optimums. So these two lines are coming parallel. It means that even if we are increasing the compactive effort, we are not reaching closer to the zero air voids line. So it is almost, this distance is almost similar. So even if we are increasing the compactive effort, the maximum dry unit weight that can be achieved in the field, it is not reaching to the maximum theoretical dry unit weight, so which is achieved at the zero air voids line. So we cannot reach this line in the field. So the reason is that whatever method of compaction we are applying, some air voids will always be there. So we cannot compact it to such a up to such a point that air voids are totally zero. Some air voids will be left. So that's why we cannot reach up to the zero air voids line in the field. Next factor is the type of soil. So if we are talking about the gravelly soils, so it should not be complete gravel. If some fines are there in gravels along with gravels, so in that case maximum dry unit weight will be more. And if it is a uniformly graded sand or gravel, then the maximum dry unit will be very low. So fines are necessary, or in what happens in uniform sand, and because all the particles are of same size, so obviously more voids will be there in that case. So the dry unit weight is less. And for the sand, if we see this for sand, so the for sand, this curve between the plot between dry unit weight and water content, it does not follow the same way as it does for the cohesive soil. So what happens for the uh, sandy soils? What happens? This dry unit weight first decreases and then increases. It goes something like this. So this is the water content, and here it is gamma D. And this minimum dry unit weight is at around 4 to 5% of water content. So what is happening here, in case of sands, when some water is added, so in that case capillary tension takes place. So the water enters into the capillary pores and the tension is there. So even we are putting compactive effort on this side, the particles are not moving close to each other because of the that tension which is there in the capillaries. And this tension is maximum when the water content is at around 4 to 5%. And so at this point the sand is dry, so the dry unit, if it is dry then unit weight is more. But if the water content is first increased up to, let's say, 4 to 5%, then the unit weight is decreasing, which happens because of the capillary tension. And this phenomena is called as bulking of sand. Now if we are increasing the water content further increase in water content, so these capillaries are broken and the water is entering the void, and the sand particles can move freely into the spaces and occupy better alignment or better arrangement. So after this point the dry unit weight starts increasing and we reach up to the maximum dry unit weight at some point. And after that what happens again, similarly what happens, the space which is occupied by the soil normally, and if we are increasing the water content further, this space will be occupied by the water particles, then water molecules. So in that case, if water is there, then unit weight of water is less than the unit weight of sand, so the overall dry unit weight will be decreasing. So the this plot for optimum moisture content versus the gamma D plot is not same as of clay for the sands. And this kind of curve which we saw for the uh, cohesive soils, it can be formed only when some plastic soils are there, plastic soils, and it is not possible for the non-plastic material. And one more point which is there, that is method of compaction, factors affecting the compaction. So in the lab what we are doing, we are using a impact type compaction test. We are applying some weight using the hammer and we are using this kind of test. But in the field mostly some roller will be used. Different kind of rollers are used for different kind of soils. So sheep foot roller is used for clayey soils or soils having some plasticity. This is not good for cohesionless soil. Like for cohesionless soil, vibratory rollers are used. Vibratory rollers, because using the vibration these are compacted properly. And so different methods of compactions are used in the field, and the what result we get in the lab differs than the result what we get in the field. So that factor should be kept in the mind.